Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be going over the new cards for Freljord. Okay, so here's the other half of the cards for Freljord that we're looking into, along with two cards for Targon. I know that these came out yesterday. I did take yesterday off. I usually take Sundays off, sort of as a way to start the week off better, and that way I don't get too overloaded each week with YouTube. So anyway, here's the cards from yesterday. We'll also be going over the cards that came out today in another video that'll hopefully come out today as well. So to start off, we have Trundle, a 5-mana 4/6 regeneration. And he states, when I'm summoned, create an ice pillar in hand, and he levels up when you play said ice pillar. So he basically creates a token for you to play that levels him up. And his leveled up form is a 5/7 overwhelm regen. It says, and then he says, attack, grant me +1 attack for each 8-cost card you behold. Behold is have in play or in hand. So the Ice Pillar card is an 8-mana 08 vulnerable. Play, refill 8 mana. Play in round start. Give the strongest enemy vulnerable this round. I really like the design here. Basically, Trundle not only gives you a Behold trigger for all the Behold +8 cost cards, but also levels himself up, which is great. The Ice Pillar is a free 0/8 with vulnerable. Once you get to turn 8, you can play it. It still counts for the Behold once it's in play, and it can actually have some good utility with giving it a strongest enemy vulnerable, meaning you can pull an enemy towards the Ice Pillar itself and maybe get lethal in with Trundle's Overwhelm or something like that. Trundle himself is pretty strong. The 4/6 on a regeneration body is pretty strong. I definitely like 6 health. That's pretty hard to deal with. It's a lot like Garen, right? As a 5-drop regen, but he has better stats than Garen in my opinion. As I've said, nothing really... okay, there's a couple things that have 5 health at the 5 cost. There's definitely more of those. But more things that could do 5 damage at the 5 cost. And actually, with tough on Radiant Guardian, I think that having more HP, 6 HP, means that this card actually has more utility than Garen and can survive for an extra combat, meaning he can actually deal 8 damage, where Garen can only deal 5 before he dies. And with the regen, it's actually very strong. And now the Ice Pillar, Trundle's going to be probably a staple in any Behold decks. The next card we have is Augur of the Old Ones, a 6-mana 5/5 with Overwhelm and Regeneration. When you play him, if you behold an 8+ cost card, grant an ally Overwhelm and Regeneration. So this card is super interesting. Being a 6-drop that has Overwhelm and Regen on a 5/5 body is okay. I mean, like, the 5/5 body for 6 mana is not great. The Overwhelm has a hard time mattering unless you're going up against a deck that's trying to fill the board up with chump blockers. The 5 attack usually can't get through most 5 drops, much less 6 drops. And the 5 health with regen, like its power, has a hard time mattering against other creatures of the same cost as it. The fact, however, that this card can grant another ally Overwhelm and, more importantly, Regeneration, means that whatever 5-drop, 4-drop, 3-drop, whatever creature you have in play can just immediately become, like, twice as better. You're probably going to be wanting to use this ability on a 4 or 5 drop because 3 drops, they won't have enough power for the Overwhelm and enough health for the regen. But if you're playing this on a 6 cost or a 4 cost dude that has a lot of power and toughness, it can actually use the regen and Overwhelm very well. And you don't want to be using this on a 8 or 9 drop because usually those are going to be ending the game anyway. And if you're relying on this to give a big unit Overwhelm, then it's going to be very bad. Most big units already have Overwhelm or another way to end the game. Now, Trundle himself is a bad target. Brahm's a bad target, so we're probably not going to be playing this in the Freljord combinations, but you can play this on basically any other champion with a high stat line. Vi is one of the only champions with a high attack that doesn't have Overwhelm, and this card can just make Vi broken. You also have a couple of other champions that can benefit from this. You have Nautilus, who has tough and fearsome, but does not have the Overwhelm or even regen. Nautilus with this would actually be pretty overpowered, right? Although that might be a little bit of an overcommitment into Vengeance or the Ruination, and Augur is a 6 drop, and Nautilus is a 7 drop, but you get the idea. Some other champions you could use on this is potentially Swain and Lee Sin. They have good abilities that tie into Overwhelm, and even the regen can be very powerful. Swain hitting the Nexus can do a lot of damage once he's leveled up, and Lee Sin, once he's leveled up, can dragon kick something into the Nexus, and then Overwhelm can hit through. Although with Lee Sin, I mean, Noxus might be a better pair because they have more Overwhelm cards, but that's still a potentially a good play, you know. But the problem with that is, you know, Lee Sin's a 6 drop, but not a 5 drop. But, you know, you can play this on turn 7. It's a little bit of a less impactful play then, but if you're playing it on, like, a Lee Sin, I don't think that matters too much. The only thing I can think of otherwise with this card is it doesn't work well with Trundle, and they're both Behold cards, so Trundle and Augur of the old ones is sort of an awkward play. You don't want to be Auguring onto Trundles, you want to be Auguring onto a 4-drop, which is much weaker, especially with the ones we've seen so far. I don't know if Regen or Overwhelm is going to be very helpful for a 4-drop, and so that's kind of clunky. The next card we have is Trundle's Icequake, an 8-mana slow spell. Give all units -3 attack this round and deal 3 to all units. This is, there's also Icequake, which is just the normal card, but this is also Trundle's champion spell. Yeah, so this card is just like a worse Avalanche. It deals 1 extra damage for 4 extra mana, and can give all units -3 attack this round. If you're killing everything, -3 attack doesn't matter. And if you're not killing anything, the -3 attack could help you, you know, take less damage. But, like, this card is so hard to make any sense. And it's just, I don't know. Wouldn't you just play Avalanche? Because you're never playing this for the -3 attack. You'd rather just play the Ruination, which wipes the board. Like, the Ruination buys you, like, it can win the game. This card maybe buys you a turn at most. Like, just think about the difference. And Avalanche does 2 damage to everything. So basically does what the Icequake does without the added benefit of taking out things with more than 2 HP. Or, I mean, not even taking them out, but reducing the attack of things with more than 2 HP. Like, this just has to be a bad play. And the last one in this spoiler for Freljord is Revitalizing Roar. Alright, so it's a slow spell. Pick a unit in your hand to reveal. Heal your Nexus by its power, and if you're enlightened, have 10 mana. Reduce its cost to 0. So, if you're playing this on turn 7, it's a 7 mana heal 8 if you have a Trundle in hand. 7 mana heal 8 is like, if you're thinking about the ratio to heal to mana, is a lot worse than Health Pot. It's healing, 1 health for every mana, up to the point where you're getting 1 extra if you're playing Trundle, less if you have something less power. And okay, by this turn, you're not going to want the healing very often, right? You mean aggro decks are either going to kill you by this turn, or like they've already lost. What's the point of using Revitalizing Roar over a card that does better against aggro, like Kindly Tavern Keeper? Tavern Keeper can heal you for 3 and a 3/3 body on board. This card heals for 8, but it's turn 7. That's ridiculous. I mean, I can see if Ezreal was still a thing. If Ezreal went off and you were at low HP, or there was a situation where Ezreal didn't kill you in 1 turn and they had to try get another turn, this card could heal you 8. That's 4 spells. That could, finish the Ezreal player off. But most of the time, Ezreal's even killing you just right out that turn. And so this card has a hard time making sense. I think that the only problem with this card, actually, is that we have better healing. Like, why would you ever use this card, which is a turn 7 heal 8, when you could just use Health Pot? Or even in Freljord, you could just use Kindly Tavern Keeper. That just makes way more sense. So the fact that this does reduce a dude's cost to 0 is pretty impactful, actually. In certain situations, playing this turn 7, healing a lot, then playing a Trundle for 0, or not turn 7, you played turn 10, played free Trundle, for 7 mana, you reduce Trundle's cost by 1 at that point, but get the free heal. That's some value. I mean, like, I just don't think that aggro decks are even very powerful in the meta right now, or that aggro decks right now are going to care about this card enough to, for this card isn't going to do enough against aggro decks. They're trying to kill you earlier on. You're probably dead by that point. And this card also relies on your hand state. You have to have a big enough dude to warrant the healing, right? So I think it's just a bad card. Although it might work with the new champion we're going to see, the healing one. I know we're getting a healing champion soon, so maybe this can just level them up or use whatever ability they have pretty well. I don't know. That is something to think about. If we're missing something with the new champion, that might work. But we just don't know yet. And otherwise, this card seems like a pretty bad card. You're reducing a unit's cost to 0, but this card already cost 7 mana. And you have to be enlightened to reduce the cost. I think if this reduced the cost without you being enlightened, or just you were enlightened, but this card only costed 3 mana and didn't have the healing effect or something like that, it could be more viable. But otherwise, I just don't see this card being very good. Next, we have 2 Targon cards. So the first one we have is a 4 mana 2/7 Broad-Backed Protector. It says, round start, heal your Nexus 3, deal damage to me equal to the amount healed. So if you're overhealing, this doesn't deal damage to itself. If you're healing the full, it takes 3 and goes down to a 2/4. And then a 2/1. And then a 0/0, whatever. So this can heal 3 times for 9 HP. It is a unit. The 7 health means it's going to be hard to deal with turn 4. But 2 attack is actually too low for this to make sense. I know I said toughness is much better than attack, especially on a card like Trundle. But Trundle can block fearsome units, and he has 4 attack, not just 3 attack. For 5 cost dude, 4 attack is pretty, it's enough, right? On Broad-Backed Protector, a 2/7 for 4 mana is kind of weak, actually. The health means it's out of ranges almost all the time. But 2 attack means it has trouble blocking fearsome. But when it's not blocking fearsome, it's blocking anything. But even 7 health can't matter, enough to warrant this card. If we see the new healing champion has an ability and you want to be able to use this card to heal 3 times and up to 9, potentially that could be pretty strong for a 4-cost unit, especially because it's hard to kill. But without the synergy points, it just looks like a 2/7 for 4 that just loses in a ton of matchups. Like, control and mid-range don't really care about this card. So next we have Resplendent Stellacorn, which is a 5 mana 4/5, bad stats. Trundle's a 4/6 for 5. So you're just adding an extra health onto Trundle, and he has regeneration. This card is a 4/5 that says heal an ally and your Nexus 3. Again, with the healing champion, this could be a pretty strong card, healing twice and for 6 total. And it's nice to see healing in another region, Targon, but it's still just worse than Kindly Tavern Keeper, right? I can't see this being better. It's basically 2 extra mana for 1 health, 2 health, and 1 power that can heal an ally for health. In a lot of situations, maybe. Like, Thresh actually wants health gain a lot, but this is also, again, competing for the Kindly Tavern Keeper spot. The reason I mentioned Thresh is because Thresh can challenge her multiple times, but he doesn't have regen like Rom or Trundle or Garen. So giving him health can actually matter a lot. But Resplendent Stellacorn just seems like a worse Kindly Tavern Keeper. And I say that because in the aggro matchup, you don't want to be paying 5 mana for a 4/5. By then, your opponent has either already switched to their burn plan or has swarmed the board, wide enough that 1 blocker isn't going to change anything. Kindly Tavern Keeper can swing your board turn 3, can heal you for 3, and is a good blocker to stop at least 1 attack before Resplendent Stellacorn can. So I think it's a little bit too slow. If we see some self-damaging synergies or some good healing synergies in the mid-range category, this card could hit a lot of decks, but without a healing champion to compare this to yet, it's too hard to see how good it will be. I am super excited to try out Trundle. I have loved the Behold mechanic since it first came out. I love the fact that Trundle doesn't have the Behold mechanic, oddly enough, but that he does activate it. Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.